Alright, it is time for the Q&A on the first trailer design. We've already got the second design coming together. That's going to come up in the next video, so please stay tuned for that. Anyways, let's dive right into it. Gary Clark says, just something for you to think about, Nick. What about adding 2 or 4 inch blocks between the rails and the axles to raise the ass of the boat up to make it about even between the bow and stern of the boat? Like I said, just a thought, or maybe even airbags to raise and lower the stern of the boat up when needed. It is a good thought, but the thing is we're adding a layer of complexity there. You want those dollies to sit on the beam because that's where all the weight's being carried. You don't want to be jacking that up in the air. You start jacking that up in the air, it'd start to tip over. If you want to change the angle of the boat, the way to do that's going to be by adjusting the cribbing and changing the angle of the boat on the cribbing, and then that'll hold everything together that way. What You Know says, just a bit worried the beams will bow/spring a little, making the front of the keels touch the road. That would be a concern if we were carrying the weight directly in the center, but we're not. We're dealing with a distributed load that goes across the length of the beam. So if we're setting all that weight in the middle, yeah, we'd have a ton of sag right there. But this whole thing, as it spreads out the load, the other thing you have to consider is the boat itself is going to become part of a structural member here. When we attach straps from the boat down to the frame to pull everything together, that's going to transfer a lot of that load, so it will take a lot of the sag out of it because the structure of the boat itself will actually prevent a lot of the sagging by holding everything together. Mark Bernier says, very good design. I would give consideration to welding it up after bolting. Also get Doug to mark out the Pimsol line on the design. You may have a weight distribution issue into account. Mark, it is a thought. Here's the reason why we don't want to weld this, is when we get to the Port of Catoosa, generally speaking, I don't know how the Port of Catoosa is, but I know at most ports, most of the facilities like that you work at, if you're going to be doing any types of welding or cutting operations, you're going to have a hot work permit. And the thing is, we say, well, we're not welding on it, we're just taking it apart. Well, you still have to have a permit to run the torch there because they're worried about you catching the grass, whatever else on fire. This trailer is going to have to come apart to get the boat out of it because the beams go above the keels, so that's completely unavoidable. So the thing to do there, I think, is to keep it bolted. The bolts will be plenty strong enough. It allows us to be adjustable. It allows us to move things as need be. Also, the other thing you have to realize is that this trailer assembly that we're building is going to be 15 to 16 feet wide to the outside of the tires. So that's going to be really wide. So by itself, it would have to have a permit to be moved. Doing it the way we are, this thing can be completely broken down into its individual parts and pieces, stacked up on a trailer, and carried away. So when the crane shows up, we can have this thing literally unbolted. All they have to do is set the beams aside, pick the trailer up, set it in the water, and then they can set all the pieces on a flatbed trailer. It's sitting right there, load it all up, it can all disappear, so we're not spending a whole bunch of money having the thing sitting there at the Port of Catoosa, having to spend a couple of days, whatever it is, dealing with all the parts and pieces. It could be in, get it done, get gone, smallest bill as possible. The Bernie83H asks, how about the cribbing secured to the beams? How do you prevent it from shifting forward/aft under braking and acceleration? That's really simple. The cribbing isn't going to be secured to the beams. It's going to sit on top, but the thing is, this thing is going to be chained down. We're not dealing with excessively high speeds here. I mean, it's going to be a 16-mile move. We're probably going to be moving 5 to 10 miles an hour for the majority of it. We're not going to have a lot of shifting, moving load. It's something that's going to be moved very slow. If we were on the interstate, it would be more of a concern. But with the way this is going to be set up, that cribbing is going to have to be put in there. It's going to be shim tight against the hull. You'll cut the pieces to shape at first, and then we'll take wedged blocks and you drive them in from either side. And then once they're driven in from either side, we'll just take a brad nailer and stick a pin into them so they're in there good. So that way, the things aren't going to move and fall out and whatever else. They should be pretty tight. Also, the whole boat is going to be strapped down to the trailer, so you're going to have a downward force pushing down on this thing at all times. Even if it starts to move, that stuff is going to be tied together. That's kind of the idea behind this. Gary Cagle says, try redrawing with the stern forward. That would reduce clearance issues. Also, the stern is heavier and would allow distributing more tongue weight to the trailer wheels further forward. Gary, you're right about that, but actually that is more of a concern than a blessing. It's more of a problem because right now with the way this thing is designed, you have the heaviest portion of the boat, which is going to be the portion that has the engine and all the steering gear and all the mechanical equipment that Doug's putting on board. All of that is going to be inside of that portion of the boat right where the wheels are right now, and that's why I put the wheels there for a very specific reason, is because when you do the tire count, you have 8 tires on the tractor, you have 16 on the trailer. The wheels are 2/3 back, so that gives you 2/3 weight distribution on the 16 tires, 1/3 on that. So it's a perfect weight distribution the way it's designed right now. Which, I mean, it probably would need a little bit of adjustment, but that's kind of where everything is. I know there's more weight in the skeg and everything with the rudder. It creates more of a difficult situation towing it the other direction, though, because we're going to have to worry more about weight. That is something we are considering doing, and it may have to be done just to get the boat moving the right way out of there. Not entirely sure about that yet. It's just something we're considering. Um, these things are. You always have the ups and downs and back and forth with it. So you gain some, you lose some. We are looking at towing it in the other direction. It just really what it boils down to is the weight issue. That's completely what it comes down to. It is possible we could get a 4-axle tractor that does have a lift axle on it. That'll give us another 17,000 pounds or so that we can move on the tractor. So that would help mitigate that issue. But then again, your tractor with that extra axle is going to be that much longer. So all these things to consider there. That kind of gives you an idea of what we're having to deal with. Emily Canton says, a big issue I see with this design is there's no support for the keels. A significant part of the weight is there, that they're full of lead, whereas the rest of the boat is full of air. I'd be concerned about them flexing and breaking off. Doug's design, while it has the backswing issue, does support the keels. Emily, actually, here's the thing you have to consider is this will be riding through the air like this. Once this boat is in the water, those keels will be hanging from the bottom of the boat indefinitely in the water. There will be nothing supporting them. And so, if they can't make it to the Port of Catoosa hanging in the air, once they're in the water, they're going to be in real trouble because the force of the ocean acting on those keels is going to be much harder than anything that they'd experience on the road. I don't think it's going to be an issue in either situation. Doug has built structural members into that. Everything is, tied in across the hull. I really don't see it becoming an issue at all. If I did, I'd have said something about it long ago. Right now, the entire weight of the boat is sitting on those keels, and then, like I said, it's had the frame of the boat built inside of it, and everything's tied together. I don't think it'll be an issue. Stephen McNaughton says, just a friendly suggestion. I see from your pictures that you are an accomplished wide load hauler. Maybe think outside the box with your setup and have a very limited turn radius due to the beam over your fifth wheel. Maybe think about an overhead suspension rig, outside frame rig. Both are readily available in Oklahoma. That way you're not limited by flex, weight, or an added bonus, you could steer both ends to accommodate the tight corners. Also, the whole rig could be independently raised to miss obstacles. I don't want to pimp any companies on your post, but if you need more info, hit me up. Good luck in your endeavors. David, thank you. You obviously know what you're talking about there. There's a couple issues that we have there, and I had thought about the rigs you were talking about there. The reason why I don't think it will work is because of some of the corners we have to make. That suspension rig is great because you can steer the back end, but the problem is what happens to the center of the load. It has to cut over the center of the curb. And in a couple of places where, there's telephone poles, there's things like that. That's why I've designed this the way it is. You're absolutely on point, but having looked at the route, I just don't think it'll work. If it did, if it was a possibility, it would be a much better situation because then we can steer everything, be way more maneuverable, raise it, lower it. In the new design that'll be coming out in the video tomorrow, I do have that issue addressed. I have come in with some hydraulics on the thing. You're just going to have to wait and see how that turns out. Also, you're absolutely right on the swing of the tractor. I just used the same design that the house moving company had, saying, hey, this is their setup. This is how it would work to take what they have and make it work. And so now we're kind of into our own territory figuring this out. And that's what we're doing from here. And it's not too bad of a deal. We'll kind of get it figured. But check out that other video that's coming out tomorrow. I think you'll take a lot away from that. Kevin Hornbuckle says, 2 advantages I see to your design proposal. 1, the front 2 perpendicular beams could be carried by 2 medium-duty steer axles bolted together. That would take the load off the tractor, which seems important given that you only have 8 tires in your design. So that'd be a sort of dolly which could be unbolted and lifted out if necessary. 2, the square plates at the intersection of the 4 perpendicular beams could be the lifting mechanism for elevating the boat 6 to 8 inches from the ground. The rods connected to the beams would need to be 1.25-inch diameter thread, and the nuts could be gradually cranked to lift the load long beams. This is how the big movers do. Okay, Kevin. Weight is not the issue. We're perfectly fine on weight, assuming that the boat does come in at 30 tons. With the way we've got it set up right now, we're at a perfect 2/3 weight distribution. 16 tires on the trailer, 8 on the truck. The axles are right where they need to be. We are golden on weight distribution in this configuration. We don't know if we're going to be moving it forward or backwards, which is going to create some weight issues. And the video tomorrow will explain a lot more about this. Gur Arg says, the whole weight of SV Seeker distributed across 48 bolts, I'd be worried about them shearing. Not an issue because Seeker's going to be about 30 tons, which is roughly 60,000 pounds. You figure the bolts that I used in this design are 2-inch in diameter if you were using 100 KSI steel, which is what I'd recommend. And for those of you that don't know, 100 KSI is meaning when you take a piece of steel and pull on it, it has to be able to withstand at least 100,000 pounds of force per square inch before it starts to deform. You've got easily 2 square inches on a 2-inch diameter. It's actually like I can't remember what the math on that is offhand, but you're upwards of 2 inches of surface area there. So you're literally talking with the 48 bolts there, close to 1,000,000 pounds of holding strength on a 60,000 pound piece of equipment sitting on top of it. I think we will be just fine. Jay Sim says, I know Seeker likes to half-ass everything. I would just pay a mover. They have the permits and can arrange the wide load escort. Probably will need troopers to run along with it too. You just can't move something of that size without all that. It gets to the point where there are low power lines. The power company will have to arrange to take them down and put them back up. Also, it allowed you to keep the keels up higher, not having to realize that they're part of the bow is just too low. I don't want to be a shithead, but that's just how it's done. Maybe costly, but beats not making it. Well, Jay, I would be the expert on this. I have been in the trucking industry for 13 years. I've got about 1.3 million behind me. I have been hauling wide loads for, 12 of those 13 years. Heavy haul for about 4 of those 13 years. And so I've really got a lot of experience doing this stuff. That's why I'm helping make this happen. And what I understand is that this boat can't go on a standard type trailer that's available out there because of its design. That's the whole reason I'm helping design this and put this together, is so that when we call the moving company, because I will no longer be in the trucking business by the time this happens, so when we call the heavy haul company to come do it, all they have to do is show up with their tractor, show up with the escorts and get the permits and pull the thing out of there. It's going to be really simple. It's not going to take a lot of thinking. It's not going to take a lot of work. It's just going to be hook up, go to the port. Herb Vandenberg says, why not weld instead of bolts? Herb, like I said before, it's simply because when we get to the Port of Catoosa, we don't want to be doing a bunch of hot work over there. We want to be able to take this thing apart quickly. Bolts are the fastest and easiest and most economical way to do that. Ken says, hi Nick, no pressure if this move goes south. You only have a couple of 100 volunteers and Doug glaring at you with blow torches in hand. Well, if it does go south, we can all just pick it up and carry it to the water, huh? Charlie says, didn't Doug say that the bulwarks were only tacked so they could be removed for the move? They are only tacked, but here's the issue with it, is we want to move the boat as completely intact as possible. Like I said, if we're down at the Port of Catoosa wanting to do hot work, that's going to be more of an issue because they have a permitting process, safety process, everything else. It turns into headaches. So if we can do this beforehand, it's better. The other thing is you have to realize that you still have the cabin tops on there that stick up over the top of the boat, and so with the bulwarks on there, it levels that out. I mean, you still have a little bit of stick up, but it makes it a lot more of a smoother contour running across the top. So if there's a wire coming down the top, there's less stuff for it to grab on. It just makes everything smoother. The other thing is there's a safety factor as well, because if the bulwarks are on the boat while we are moving it, that means if someone has to get up on top of it, it's safer for them standing up there because they have something to keep them from falling off the side. So that's something to consider as well, because there probably are going to be instances where someone does have to get up on the top and does have to do things up there. So this is all things that we need to be mindful of. Also, to go with that, the other issue is we want to have the boat completely painted before it goes in the water, because we don't want to be sitting down there at the Port of Catoosa having to paint the boat, because painting a boat in the water is a real pain in the butt, because now you have all these other environmental issues you have to deal with. So having them on the boat, having them in place right when it all goes together, much easier to deal with right there. John Walker says, physical size is your only real problem. People in the comments seem to be worried about the weight and number of axles. It's only 30 ton. Tandem is good for a legal 80,000 pounds and will carry a lot more. John, you're absolutely right about that. Those 8-wheel dollies put together, they're good for 80,000 pounds. You get another 40 on the tractor. We're good to go. Chris Paglario says, hi, your design looks great. Hopefully you don't have too much belly bounce. Hey, I drive a truck and deliver to Tulsa every week. I head home 44 to Joplin. Doug says he plans on going to the Port of Catoosa. There are 2 overpasses that are 15.6 prior to exit 248 the Port of Catoosa. Hope you guys get this figured. Thanks. Chris, you're absolutely right. Yes, there are those low overpasses there. I have found a route that goes out around those. We don't even have to worry about them. They're going to be a non-factor. The route that I have put together really has the minimal amount of load clearance or overhead clearance as possible. I think we're going to be totally good to go on that. But you're right about that. That would be a big issue. The thrift store hacker says, would it be a good idea to put some axles up by the front of the trailer, place the 4 or so inches above the road, just in case the trailer hitch falls, the trailer's tires try to twist? What do you think? I just see a lot of forces up front and worry about the balance. No, we don't want to have any more tires on this thing. We don't want to have any more weight or complexity. We just want to keep it simple. This will be completely fine. It's got plenty of clearance as it is. We'll be able to get this thing where it needs to go, and also we're redesigning the front end of it. I promise you the video that's coming out tomorrow will explain that a lot better. Kosamoa says, okay, Wizard, how about this? Truck spin. I have no idea what you're asking. DJ says, a shorter wheelbase would allow better maneuverability in turns, even though the rear end kicks out, like you see with motorhomes and buses these days. With the wheelbase shown, the estimated at 60 feet will require beams 16 to 24 inches in depth, weighing 75 to 90 pounds per foot, with deflection of 3 to 5 inches at center. Can your design handle this deflection? There should be some horizontal angle cross bracing and at least one bay to keep both beams from laterally buckling simultaneously. DJ, here's the thing, is the weight is going to be distributed across the beams, and everything's going to be tied together. The boat becomes part of the structure on this for the move. And so we're not going to have the issues there that you're talking about. Yeah, there's going to be a bit of sag in there, but that sag is going to be taken care of as we put the shimming and blocking and everything in. It'll completely mitigate that. It'll be completely fine going down the road because we have the ability to adjust that. And with the new trailer design, you'll see what that is. Also, we're going to cross-chain it so that the thing can't deform. It's going to be very secure, very tied together. I foresee no issues of that coming apart because we're going to, protect against the movement like this with chaining. Everything's going to be tied in, strapped down. All the blocking and cribbing and everything is going to have wedges pounded into it. Trust me, it's going to be on there very tight. Patricia Brooks says, you're obviously not an engineer. Need a fundamental rethink to make that work. Thank you, Patricia. I mean, I got so much from your question there. I mean, you are just so enlightened. Please do tell us more with your awesome insight there. Malcolm Williams says, have you considered a steerable wheel dollies like they use in long loads and the type that fire ladder trucks use to get around in cities? Malcolm, we have, but the thing is, we just want to keep this as simple as possible because when you start adding a steerable dolly set on there, now you have to have a hydraulic system to steer them. It starts to get more complex. You have to have a place for the operator to sit that's steering those dollies. So you're talking about a whole new level of expense and complexity. For us, I think the best solution is just to keep it simple. Rom says, if you're concerned about the skeg dragging, why not flip the boat around and drag it backwards? That way the bow will be on the tail end of the trailer and won't snag even if the front of the trailer lifts. Check out the new design we got coming out tomorrow in a video. I think that will tell you everything you need to know about it. We've really got it nailed down for this. John Nelson says, by moving the dollies that far back, you're putting a lot of extra weight on that fifth wheel. A design where you could slide the dollies where needed would be more beneficial. Well, for one, we can slide the dollies anywhere we need them because they bolt on in this assembly. The other thing is we're not putting a lot of weight on the fifth wheel because we have 2/3 weight distribution. You have 16 tires, 8 tires. The wheels right now are 2/3 of the way back of the boat. That's perfect weight distribution. KB Bacon says, why not use an airbag suspension to vary the height while moving? If we were set up to do that, that would be great. The problem is the dollies that we're using are a walking beam type suspension, and you can't use airbags on a walking beam. At least I've never seen one that works that way. Max X says, very impressed. Thank you. Viper Vet 03 says, looks like semi-drive wheels will hit the rails in a turn. You're right about that, and the new design we have coming together, mind you, will take care of that. Mind you, the design here is just essentially based off of what the house mover has. I've got a whole new design coming together that really takes all these things into account. You know, that is something that I worried about as this was being designed, but I wanted to put the first design out here, get some thoughts, show it to Doug, and then start to make the evolution from there. YPop says, can you put the back wheels on airbags with no overhead problems? You run more air with clearance problems, run less air. YPop, if we were running a standard air ride suspension, yes, but in this case we have a walking beam. On a walking beam, you can't run airbags. That's just the way it works. And in that narrow space with the way these dollies are set up, you just don't have the room in there for it. Otherwise, that's exactly what we'd be doing. Crazy Eddie says, it will never work. I think it might be just a roadside restaurant someday. I hope I'm wrong. Yeah, I think you're wrong. Blue Planet says, pivot at the center is best. Then you go around corners. The center of the boat cuts the corners as much as possible without clipping whatever's on the ground at the inside of the corner. No, the problem is if we put the wheels at the center, we're not going to have any weight up on the tractor because you're actually going to be heavy towards the rear, so the front of the boat is going to be lifting. And the problem with that is you won't have any weight on the drives, and that means you won't have any traction on the drives, and you just sit there and spin the tires, and the thing will go nowhere. And also, since you don't have any brakes on these trailer axles because they're dollies, that means you won't have any braking either. Really big problem if that comes down. So we really need to have that weight distribution. Like I said, 2/3 on the 16 tires, 1/3 on the 8 tires. It gives you a perfect weight distribution. We'll be good to go. Iragiski says 30 tons on those I-beams. I'd think they sag. Nah, it's all going to be structural like I said before. Dozer 1642 says no offense, but leave the engineering to the engineers. Draken 322 says, what is the estimated total weight of the boat at the time of moving? It should be right at about 30 tons, 60,000 pounds. Johnny Luddite says, if you're going to do this stupid idea, space, comma, 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 Then you need to install some hydraulic jacks under the boat and above the trailer or to lift or lower the front or rear of the boat. This is our first design. We are in an evolutionary process here. This is by far from completed, but thank you for your insight, Johnny. I really appreciate it. Merrill Ballantyne says, I appreciate your efforts, but there will be significant flex in the back beam from the tractor, and the numbers of tires you have, the total of 16, is probably insufficient. This needs to be designed by a structural engineer, and the pathway to the river needs to be traced, preferably by an auto-turn software by a traffic engineer. Merrill, first of all, we don't have 16 tires. We have 16 tires under the boat, and then we have another 8 tires underneath the tractor. The whole setup we have there is good for, let's see, what is that, 40, 40, and 40. That's 120,000 pounds, plus another 12.5 on the tractor. You know, of course, you have the weight of the tractor, the weight of the beams out of that. I think we're going to be just fine. The worst case scenario is we may have to get a 4-axle tractor to haul it and do a little bit of adjusting. We're not going incredibly fast. We're not going to be worrying about going over speed bumps at 60 miles an hour. We're going to be just fine on that account. When it comes to having to have an engineer design this is something that's not that hard. It is not that complex. And the new design that's coming out tomorrow, it's going to address a lot of the issues that we have with this. It's an evolutionary process. I've been doing this now. This is this will be my 13th year in the trucking industry, almost 14 years now. And I've got $1.3 million behind me. I've done a lot of this stuff. I've got over 4 years doing heavy haul alone. And before that, I did a lot of wide loads, oversized stuff, even on step decks when I was pulling them. So this is something I'm very well versed in. I've pulled stretch trailers. I've bought permits. I've picked out routes. I understand this stuff extremely well. This has been my bread and butter for a long time. I don't need a traffic engineer to understand this. Shop Dave says, only 6 inches of ground clearance. You're being pretty brave. The crown of the road is more than that, which means you'll be dragging bottom at many intersections. Granted, you can lay down planks, but it'll be a lot of work. Good lick. Dave, here's the thing, is we are doing a redesign on this. I have, the crown of the road would be an issue. We have some things figured out to make that happen, though. I mean, I think we got it covered. Salvatore Shiganero says, is it worth risking all this jury rig stuff? Perhaps it'll be time to call in a pros. I don't mean that highly questionable house moving company we've been seeing in the videos. Salvatore, I've been a heavy haul trucker for a long time. I am in the pros. Dan Curry says, you're overthinking this. I move heavy equipment interstate daily, on average 80,000 pound payload and 10 foot on a beam trailer. It's not easy moving 6 inches off the ground, or the clearance of the trailer is good. Dan, I get where you're at. I mean, I wasn't worded the best, but I understand what you're saying. Yes, you do know what you're talking about. We run down the road all the time. Well, actually, I think on my trailer, a lot of times I was running 4 inches underneath the trailer and ran down the road no problem. And I was like at 152.5 with that setup. I mean, this thing is actually lighter than a lot of the stuff I've moved. Wildman Tech says, good work, man. I'm sure Doug appreciates this. Yeah, he's been very happy to have it. And it's been great, kind of a collaboration. I really want to see this happen. I mean, I admire Doug for everything he's done. So it's been a lot of fun just getting to do this. Naval Frontline says, I think this is the chosen method because it's cheaper. Absolutely, you just hit the nail on the head. This is the system we're going for because it's going to be the cheapest and actually the safest. I mean, having the trailer built around the boat to where we can lift it up and down and see the design that comes out tomorrow, I think you'll be really impressed with what we've come up with there. Wayne P. says, might need to create some outrigger wheel set somehow that could be towed behind another truck. To be set in place at either side of the bow, it looks like it's going around the corner, might tip over at the front. Might have to use a pair of rear frames off a big truck's fifth wheel plates installed to give you pivot points. Wayne, I understand what you're saying. It's not going to be an issue. I've hauled a lot of stuff like this before, big pieces like this. With those wide dollies in the rear, it's going to be very stable. It's not going to be an issue. We're going to be taking it slow. Also, with the new design, it's going to mitigate a lot of these issues, going to give us the ability to really get this thing moved around. Alright, so that's it for this Q&A video, guys. Thanks for watching, and the new video will be out tomorrow, so please do check that out. Once it's up, there will be a link right here that pops up on the screen, one of those videos. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do subscribe. I'm going to be doing a lot more regular content like this.